So with the release of the Pixel 9 series, we're practically at the end of the 2024 smartphone release cycle, and the Galaxy S24 Ultra hit the market right at the beginning. With all of the other big name players playing out their hands, where does Samsung's biggest and brightest rank? Well, this is our long-term review of the Galaxy S24 Ultra. So while there are undoubted improvements year over year, the Galaxy S24 lineup doesn't feel like a substantial upgrade over the S23 series. In some cases, there are actually some downgrades in key areas, but we'll get into that a little bit later in this video. Samsung made a hell of a lot of noise about the move to titanium with this phone, but to be completely honest, I don't think it makes any difference from the experience, at least from what I've ascertained whilst using this. It's purely an iterative design change over the S23 Ultra that aids that premium market positioning, at least in my opinion. Sure, it might be more durable. Heck, I haven't actually used a case with this, at least this year, to put that to the test. There's been no damage to the frame or core chassis so far, so at least as far as Samsung's marketing materials are concerned, that was rung true. I will say though that I've managed to scuff the back glass here. Still don't know how I did that, but this is a durable phone nonetheless. My advice is to get a case either way. There are lots of excellent options out there, and there's a lot of premium options that you can pick up for the S series this time around. One of the most important changes has been the move back to a flat front screen. It's not even just from a usability standpoint, as the anti-glare glass is a cut above any screen I've used on an Android phone for several years. It's not perfect, it is absolutely glorious though. From viewing angles to mixed lighting conditions, you get fewer reflections and annoying distractions. I've battled smudges and grime aggregation though on this display without screen protector. That's not to say I hate the display, far from it, I actually love it. I just would love not to have to require a wipe every 20 minutes or so just to use this phone. That is one minor complaint, and I'm getting that side out of the way because this is simply a stunning 6+ inch phone screen. If the Pixel 9 Pro XL didn't have a glossy panel and better Gorilla Glass protection, I think it would pip the S24 Ultra, but until that happens, Samsung will take the cake for best display once again. Period. I'm also torn about the S Pen. I think its inclusion is undoubtedly enough of a reason for lots of you out there to pick up the S24 Ultra over any phone, and rightfully so. This is an added tool like no other flagship, and we say this time after time, at least as far as additional extras go, no other phone can match it. I feel bad for saying that jotting down notes and scribbling on screenshots is about the extent of my usage today, and I say that as someone who was a former Galaxy Note fanboy. I just don't write as many things down on my phone screen as I used to. Another thing that struck me is just how good the in-display ultrasonic fingerprint reader. It's the fastest and easily the most accurate I've used, and it works reliably in all lighting conditions, and one of the best things is you can use this with a locked off screen phone, if that makes sense. You can just unlock it without actually having to power your phone screen. I'll also note the speakers, while they're not particularly bass heavy, they do deliver clear and loud audio, making them great for everything from phone calls, video calls, to watching videos themselves. And in tandem with that top tier screen, the sound is good for consuming content and especially playing games, something I've been doing a lot more with my emulators on this device. And when it comes to performance, I think that ties in as well. We all know the S24 Ultra is a complete and utter powerhouse. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, designed for Galaxy phones, I think it's called, is paired with that really fast 240Hz touch response rate and the 120Hz screen. It just ensures that everything feels better than it ever has. It's not the outright front runner anymore, but you won't be disappointed, at least at this stage. Whether you're gaming or multitasking with the 12GB of RAM, although I do wish this was a little bit higher, this phone handles all of that with aplomb. The larger screen as well is super practical for productivity, allowing you to comfortably have those two windows open side by side, while the S Pen just adds that extra utility if you do want it. I love that you can go one step further with DeX. I'm super glad that Samsung has been keeping this around because it gives you those true work productivity possibilities. I do need to use it more because you can genuinely get things done on the S24 Ultra, and it blows my mind that Samsung doesn't scream about this DeX option more than they do. Android 14 in tandem with One UI is reliable and suitably feature-packed. I've forced myself to use the default setup with the gestures enabled, and One UI has really started to grow on me again. Samsung keeps pushing regular updates, and the One UI 6.11 update brings even more AI features, though some of these are tied to Samsung's own applications, which might not appeal to everyone. They are value added because the core experience is super slick and has fewer frustrations than at least any other point in time. The only real point of contention I've had with the Galaxy S24 Ultra has actually been with the camera, and I say that as I used the S23 Ultra a ton last year for about 6 months or so, and I absolutely loved it. Because the 10x sensor has been replaced with a 5x zoom but at a high resolution, Samsung is actually relying on a digital crop to get the same field of view. This means that images sometimes look softer than the previous generation, and that's important to know, especially when you zoom or crop in. And it's a major step down, and it's an annoying little nitpick when I've used the newer device. Most people will never be aware due to upgrading or having never used the S23 or S24 Ultra side by side, but I do think it does diminish this so-called flagship nature of the latest S series top tier handset. While I will say that I do prefer the older setup on the S23 Ultra, the current configuration definitely performs admirably for everybody out there, and you probably won't have a problem with it anyway, because by the time you're zooming into 100 times, it's mostly for fun at that point. The ultra-wide and the 3x telephoto cameras also deliver consistent results with colours and contrast that match well across all of the rear cameras, so you're going to have a good time here. Aside from the stills, the auto video mode is excellent with really impressive stabilisation. I'm not sure if it's the best stabilisation, but it certainly feels like it on Android. For the best video results though, I recommend sticking to 4K at 40 or 60 FPS, as although 8K makes a jump here as well, it's actually more challenging to process on other devices, and while you are future-proofing your videos, it isn't going to offer the same flexibility as you can't use 8K video on all lenses. And that's the kind of thing you'll have a high resolution video for anyway, but it is going to be less usable. But just stick to those two options, I think, and you're going to get the best video. And also it won't take as much space on your device. While I'm complaining about the video, I think given the Ultra's premium price point, it would have been nice to have some more advanced video options, perhaps with a more flexible H.265 codec, or even a log profile when you do want to use that, especially for professional videographers out there who want to carry a Samsung phone. It's high time we had a log profile on this device, as it's becoming more and more common, and Samsung's supposedly the market leader on Android, and they do want to lead from the front foot. So next year, Samsung, let's get Samsung log on the S25 Ultra. Another one of the standout features of the S24 Ultra is by far and away its battery longevity. The 5000 mAh battery, it's not the biggest out there, but it easily provides anywhere from 7 hours onwards of screen on time, although I do hate that metric, with pretty much heavy usage, meaning you can go through a full day without needing to top up or recharge unless you do really put it through its paces. And if you do find yourself running low, fast charging gets you back up and running really quickly. However, it's worth noting that the lack of support for Qi 2 wireless charging, at least that standard, I think was a bit of a missed opportunity, as this would have made this already capable device even a little bit more future-proof. But you can top it up in fairly fast fashion with a 45-watt power brick. So looking at this device in its entirety, overall I think there's loads to love about this phone. Some of the AI tools and the on-the-fly translation, I haven't even discussed them drastically, is really nice. And the AI eraser, I think it's among the best. It's actually better than Google's own Magic Eraser for removing unwanted objects. There's that tap and hold for slow motion video, which I think is another nice feature. And Circle to Search is making this one of the most AI-stuffed phones out there. Probably more so in some ways than the Pixel lineup. The screen, I think, well, that's the best on a smartphone, period. The S Pen is unrivaled. The design is fine. It's iterative, but it's fine. It just means the Galaxy S24 Ultra is undeniably, once again, a comprehensive flagship smartphone. It's the embodiment of the Android side of the industry, merging efficiency, speed, and the overall performance. And while some might find it lacks a bit of personality or even flair, I do think it's undeniably a powerful tool, and if you do treat it like that, there are a few better out there. Although I think it was a little expensive at launch, the S24 Ultra has seen lots of discounts because it's been out for a long time now throughout the year, making it just more accessible and easier to recommend as time progresses, like the S23 Ultra and even the S22 Ultra before that. To cut to the chase though, in previous years the Galaxy S series has often been the best in the industry. This year though, I think there's some of the other players like the OnePlus 12, which I do think is my favourite phone of the year, and even to some extent the Pixel 9 Pro are the real contenders for the best Android device you can buy in 2024 because of the improvements over the previous generation, and there hasn't been quite as many improvements on this phone. I would personally recommend, as I say, the OnePlus 12 if you don't want to sacrifice power, but the Pixel 9 Pro XL has great experience despite a lot of its foibles, because in theory it shouldn't even be in the same class as those other devices. When you actually consider that the S24 Ultra was technically the first big Android release of the year, I have to say it's impressive how Samsung is able to set the stage or even set out the marker for every other Android launch of the year and become what you probably consider the benchmark for every other Android phone that precedes the latest S series phone. Is the S24 worth it though? I'd say it still is, especially if you can get a good deal on this device. I want to ask you what you reckon though. Is the S24 Ultra the best Android phone out there? I personally think no, but it is very, very, very good. Let me know in the comment section what you think, and until next time, thanks to our channel members on screen now, and I will speak to you later.